So this is our third video in the series where we answer your questions about what's happening at the Better Way Courtplex in Fort Dodge, Iowa. We were going to talk about the name change of the facility in this episode. However, we've had so many more questions come up about the ownership of MandM LLC that we're going to address some of those questions in this episode and get to the name change later on. The first time I was introduced to MandM LLC was when the city asked me to step in and help find a solution to the financing problems that the company was having at that point, developing the pavilion complex. At that time, there were several people on the different Zoom calls that I was on. I don't know who all of them were, and as far as I know, none of them were from Fort Dodge. I do know that the lead of the project and the managing member of MandM LLC was Prairie Trail LLC out of Ankeny, who supposedly owned two other facilities similar to this one in other parts of Iowa. So after months of discussion and structuring, the final members of MandM LLC by the time we closed on the purchase of the facility were Prairie Trail LLC as the managing member, and then my group of investors from Fort Dodge as the silent partners. So as it stands now, I am the only public-facing member of MandM LLC, and nobody else involved has any real interest or conflict. I do want to be clear about something, and I'm sorry if this is a buzzkill for some people, but there are no city officials, elected officials, city employees, or anybody else in the investment group that would be considered conflicted or controversial. So how I became the majority owner in MandM LLC is one of the lingering questions that we keep being asked. So basically what happened is our group of investors, when we got in the first place, were silent, and Prairie Trail LLC was the managing member. As the facility got opened, all I could see were mismanagement, miscommunication, things aren't getting done, programming wasn't happening, a sign has never gone up on the building, just kind of on and on. It was all very troubling. So finally I started digging into it a little bit, asking questions of the on-site manager, started looking at some of the financials, and eventually I ended up staying up all night one night, gathering all the data that I had, and what I found was pretty troubling. I'm not going to go into a lot of details here because I'm sure some of this is going to end up in a court somewhere, probably separate from the real estate contract situation. But reading between the lines, things were not good. So I took everything that I had to the city and told them, we have got to get this guy from Des Moines out of here. He's got to get out of the project. So I brought him to town and confronted him with everything that I had found, the money that, in my opinion, had been misappropriated, the things that were not getting done, and just all the problems that I personally saw with the project as it had gone to date. And at the end of all that, he agreed, and we put it in writing. So I did come up with an agreement with him for him to relinquish his interest in MandM LLC, where I would take it over. He is required to replace some of the money that went out of the company back into the company so it can go back into the facility. Basically what I wanted to do was just get them out of here once and for all. In my agreement, I even said the intention is for Prairie Trail to be forever gone, done, and no longer affiliated or involved with the pavilion property and or MandM LLC. And as part of the agreement, he agreed to pay back a significant amount of money into MandM LLC. And if we couldn't get that money back, we could do a lot of the things now as the Better Way Courtplex to get the facility back moving forward. So basically what happened is somebody from out of town come to town, partner with the city to get this project going. Turned out to be kind of a bad apple. We got the bad apple out of the situation and have taken it over ourselves locally. So after he signed that 6-page agreement agreeing to get out of the project and get out of Fort Dodge, we took all that to the city, and since then have been working cooperatively back and forth with them to get a new plan to get the facility open the way that it should have been in the first place. We're going to talk more about that path going forward and the rebranding in our next episode.